All real estate development projects have environmental and social impacts. It's unavoidable. Sometimes the impacts are great, sometimes the impacts are small, but it's impossible to proceed with development without having environmental and social impacts. Environmental impacts might include the loss of natural habitat, the degradation of ecosystem services like the coastal wetlands that provide coastal protection, decline of fisheries, extinction of things that are important like flora and fauna, increased local pollution. The environmental impact list is long. There are also social impacts associated with real estate development. This could mean the loss of traditional livelihoods as new development displaces old development, displacement of people from where they live, violation of cultural and religious customs go under the heading of social impacts. Political marginalization of certain groups is a social impact. Disruption of communal networks and social bonds is a social impact. Sometimes, as I said, the impacts are minor. Other times, if the impacts can be forecast beforehand, changes in the project design or the project location can minimize adverse impacts. There are numerous impact assessment tools that can be used to minimize possible adverse effects or maximize positive benefits. And we're going to be talking throughout this module about both minimizing adverse effects and enhancing or maximizing positive benefits. EIA, or Environmental Impact Assessment, can incorporate a whole series of different kinds of analysis. You can use ecosystem service models to try to forecast what the effect might be on various subparts of the ecosystem. You can use benefit cost analysis, converting different kinds of impacts to their monetized value and looking at different kinds of costs and benefits to different groups of different ways of imagining a development project. You can use risk assessments, trying to forecast the likelihood that different effects will occur if a project goes forward. You can use carbon footprint analysis. That is, you can convert different aspects of development to CO2 and other greenhouse gas emission levels. You can use life cycle assessment. That's a way of looking at all the materials that are going to be used in development, and then all the materials that have to be taken away and disposed of after a development at some point in the future is dismantled. And you can look at all of the environmental impacts in the life cycle of the materials used in development. You can use simulation modeling or even workshops in which groups of people, different stakeholders, participate in trying to model what will be the first round effects, what the reactions to those might be, then what might be second round effects. All of the adaptive efforts can be modeled using adaptive environmental assessment tools and approaches. A lot of different ways of modeling, anticipating, forecasting different kinds of environmental impacts. Social impacts can also be modeled and forecast. SIA, Social Impact Assessment, focuses on the ecosystem-human system interaction. It's possible to use benefit cost analysis. It's difficult. A lot of things are hard to convert to monetary levels. Stakeholder analysis is an important SIA tool. Try and understand how a project will affect different groups and how they perceive of different aspects of a project. You could even look at a project through a gender lens. You could do a gender analysis, understanding how men or women have different perspectives on different aspects of a proposed development. You can do beneficiary assessment or various kinds of needs assessment, all focused on the likely social impacts, employment impacts, impacts on how parties interact with each other, on the patterns of everyday life. All of these can be modeled as part of an SIA. It takes trained professionals to prepare EIA and SIA products. It costs money, it takes time, but as you will see throughout this course, EIA and SIA are crucial to the way in which socially responsible real estate development is done. In many parts of the world, there are detailed laws and regulations spelling out at a minimum how assessments must be prepared. We will be looking at some of those requirements, some of those minimum requirements. We'll also be looking at some of the ways in which, from a developer's perspective or a community's perspective, it makes sense to go beyond the minimum requirements.